This old house is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome back to This Old House. Since you were here the last time, we've gotten a lot of work done inside the place, doing some of our demolition and so forth. Today, we're going to be showing you the slab we're pouring kind of behind me in the transition building that we're going to be putting up between the house and the garage. I've already got the footings in and the rubble filled in, and we're going to be doing that with Norman, who's coming out to give me a hand. The other thing we're going to be talking about is our big picture window that we'll be moving from one location of the house to another. And that's not a simple job because it's a very big picture window, so we'll be taking a good deal of time to show you how that's done. We're also going to be talking with some folks who have done an energy audit for us here at This Old House, and they're going to be pointing to a lot of the problem areas in this small house where there's a lot of energy loss and so forth. Now, one of the things I wanted to discuss first of all today has to do with the concrete breaking up that I wanted to do. Remember, I was talking about these front steps on the house. Like all the other houses around here, we have a big set of front steps and a front door and a front walk that nobody ever uses. So earlier this week, I got started with an electric jackhammer that I rented, and I broke up most of my front walk. We figured we didn't need a front walk that leads to a street with no sidewalk or anything, so the electric jackhammer got in here and broke up this 4-inch slab for me without hardly any problems at all. However, when I got back up to the steps and decided to get started on the bottom one here, I found that I had myself kind of a battle on my hands. There's a lot more concrete in here than I thought there would be, and that electric jackhammer just wasn't doing anything for me. There's also a lot of reinforcing wire spread in around this area. So I went back to my friendly tool rental place yesterday afternoon, and the fellow there said, "Son, what you need is one of these here air compressors." So I went and picked one up early this morning, and for a mere $70 a day, I'm going to do battle with that fella, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. The way this works, basically, it's compressing air and sending it through a hose. Let me get it started and take this thing over there, and we'll take a better look at it. This thing is kind of heavy. I'd say it weighs about 60 pounds. But once you've got it in the place where you're going to be working, you don't really have to lift it up much. It does all the work itself because the way it's set up, that compressed air is coming through this hose, and it goes down the steel shaft, this column here, and it's acting just like a sledgehammer would, pounding that chisel. There's several kinds of chisels you can get, but I've got a breaking up chisel, a flat chisel like that, which I think is best for working on the actual slab on top here. Before I got started this morning, I looked at the whole thing and decided that I had an area that was already a little bit cracked over towards the corner over here. And so it looked like that would probably be the most vulnerable spot to get started. Let me set this down here a minute. And so I did get started, and I pulled some of it apart. And so far, intuition and experience, I've learned that the best way to use this thing is to angle it in as opposed to just holding it straight down, because it tends to break stuff up more easily. And the other thing that I've discovered is that underneath these 4 or 5 inches of concrete, which are casing the top of the steps, there's another set of steps. I don't know if you can tell, but that's flagstone, slate. Here's some red slate. So that apparently what's happened here is that at some point in time, the owners of this house decided to build the whole thing up and added 4 or 5 inches of concrete. You know, one of my neighbors was saying, "Bob, you're crazy to try that, break that solid concrete thing apart. You ought to get a bulldozer in here or something." And what I pointed out was that I was pretty sure there was no such thing as a solid concrete monolith here, because nobody ever builds steps like that. Usually you form them up with wood, and then you fill the cavity in with a lot of sand and rubble stone and old brick and anything you've got lying around that you don't want that's solid, and you tamp it down, and then you encase all of that in poured concrete. And that's exactly what's happened here. So the approach is to break through this casing of concrete and then get hopefully into the soft rubble that I can just pry apart, and then I'll have to figure out what to do with all this debris. But anyway, I'll have to be quiet for a couple of minutes, and I'll give you an idea how this works. One thing that you mustn't forget when you're doing it is to wear safety goggles. It's easy, actually. Once you got one of these corners started up, it just starts breaking away piece by piece. It's a piece of cake is what it is. And you noticed over here, I did start breaking through into a hollow cavity where I can start picking away at rubble pretty soon. I could do this all day, and I'm going to have to in order to get the whole thing cleared away. But I just noticed Norman's truck pulled up, and he's going to give me a hand pouring the slab in that transition building that we're putting up. So let's go over and take a look and see the footing I've already got in place. Hi, Norm.
Hi, Bob. Good.
Well, what do you think of our handiwork so far?
Pretty good. I'd like to get myself orientated again.
Yeah, this is what we've been calling the transition, which is really the entry hall, the new entry hall into the house.
And this will be a new dining room on the other side of this wall.
Right, we'll cut an opening in that wall.
And this is approximately a floor level now, inside?
Yeah, that black line.
And this is going to be the new slab that's going in here?
I hope that's where she ends up,
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's not bad. You get 3 steps down into the transition, which will be a concrete slab, and what are you going to put
I
on
want to put quarry tile on it.
That would be very nice.
Yeah, it should look good.
And then we'll come through it to, this will all be taken out, and this is going to be the new
The garage
living
becomes
room.
the new living room, yeah.
That should be really nice.
Good. Glad you like it. But what about the structural work we've been doing? Does it look all right to you?
Let's take a look at it. How far down did you dig this hole?
Me and the helper, we went down about 4.5 feet in about a 2-foot wide trench. Took us a better part of the day.
Yeah, and what's this block sitting on? I hope there's a footing down there.
Oh, yeah. We put down about 2.5 yards of concrete between this trench and the other one. Right down to the bottom, I guess it's about 24 inches wide and about 10 inches high.
Mm-hmm.
And then I threw in 4 lengths of reinforcing, half-inch reinforcing rod. So that's lying across the whole length of it. And we let it set for about a day before we got started on the block work.
The block work looks pretty good. I think we might throw a coat of stucco on there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like finished work, but I was thinking we might build a wooden deck right up close to it.
That's good. Let's see how level it is. That's pretty good, Bob. No complaints about that.
Good. I didn't think it was bad.
Let's see, what do you have over here in the front? You have kind of a lot of formwork right here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about this formwork. Let me explain. What I wanted to do was I want my new entry door to set back away from the face of this building so that the roof overhang will protect it from the weather. And so I'm doing it with a slant here. And I don't know, do you think this will hold up when we pour the concrete?
It looks pretty good, but I think you might have forgot to put a nail right here in this form.
Oh. Want to throw one in for me? You've got the belt on.
Yeah, we have to level this across.
Yep.
Assuming everything else is good.
Does that look right?
That's good, Bob.
Okay.
We really don't need to hold it up too much because the concrete will force against it.
All right.
All right. Now I see you have all this crushed stone in here. It looks good on the surface, but what's underneath it?
Well, we dug out about a foot around this whole area in here, and it was mostly topsoil. We got it out, and I brought in the 3/4-inch crushed stone. Unfortunately, I ordered about 3 times more than I needed.
I can see that.
And I'm not sure how I'm going to get by on that one. But we tamped it, well, I borrowed this from one of the neighbors who had it around his garage, and we tamped this stuff down well. And then the next step was to get this 6x6 reinforcing wire that you told me not to forget.
Right.
And boy, I'll tell you, that was a headache. Take a look over here. Oh. I had to buy a whole 250 feet of this stuff for $40, and I only needed 2 12-foot lengths. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all this.
Well, maybe you can find a neighbor who's doing a similar project. Or you could use it for cages for tomato plants.
Yeah, I'd have to go into the tomato farming business, I suppose.
One other question, Bob. What's this black board down here?
That is this half-inch thick pressed cardboard material that's impregnated so it can't rot. And I put it in there because I thought it would make a good expansion joint between this new slab that we're pouring and the existing slab in the living room. You think that's a good idea?
It's really good.
Terrific.
I think it looks fine.
All right. The only thing I'm concerned about is the actual pour and everything else. Does this look okay to you?
Yeah, that should be good.
Now, the reason I put this here was that I figured once we were floating out this concrete slab, we'd have this to act as a guide for us.
Right. You're going to use a long timber and go across the whole thing.
Right.
Fill in all these blocks, I hope.
Yeah, that was the intention.
Throw a couple anchor bolts in?
Yeah. I've got the anchor bolts over there.
I think you've covered everything.
We'll put the anchor bolts right in the blocks, right, to hold the new sills that are going in place?
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you, I think we've got about 5 or 10 minutes before that concrete truck actually will get here. And if you don't mind, how about if we go inside a minute and take a look at that window I want to move?
Okay, very good. Oh, Bob, I see the pneumatic jackhammer is finally doing the job on these front steps.
Only way to go. $70 rental. Let me tell you about this big window here, Norman. I mean, we decided to save it because it's really tight and in good shape, or at least it was until I started taking it apart. And it had triple-track aluminum storm panels on it, so it makes a big difference. I've taken out all the inside trim, and I removed the picture window center portion. Then I found that the only thing holding the window in place from the outside was a bunch of these common nails.
Yeah.
Taken out about 8 or 10 of them. The way it stands right now, I've got one left by your side and one over here. But I didn't think there was any way I could handle it by myself.
No, it's going to be a little awkward.
Shall we try it?
Sure.
All right, let me get over here. All right, that's the last nail on my side.
All right, this one's out. I think we're going to have to tip the top out first. It's going to be a little snug on that flashing. There. Pull the bottom a little. A little tight in the middle. There it comes.
I've got one nail left on the inside that you can't see. And it just cracked one piece of my wood here, of my frame. Wait a minute.
That?
Just hold everything.
Okay.
There.
And now if we can set it on top of the ladder.
Ready?
Yep. There. Oh, it's not that heavy.
Now what? You want to get down and I'll try to scoot it over to you?
Yeah, I think. Leave your end on the ladder and...
Okay. I'm going to put it down to the plank.
Okay, then you can come around from the other side.
There you go.
This window is in good condition, though.
Yeah, and it doesn't weigh much. It's just that it's 8 by 4. Light as a feather, huh? Why don't you set it down on this bulkhead?
Yeah, that would be a good place.
There. Now, I've got the right size opening in there, Norm. Why don't you give me a hand and we'll tear down this plywood.
This piece of plywood. Yeah, set it right on the ground, I guess.
There was a little window in the corner over here, remember? And we've now tripled the size of the opening. How's it look to you?
Looks pretty good, Bob, but just one question. How come you took all the sheathing off and did this insulation from the outside?
I guess that seems a little unorthodox, but I'll tell you, the plaster inside this room was in perfect condition on this wall. And I figured if I had to make an opening for the window, I didn't want to totally destroy that plaster. And since I did have to tear off all the shingles on the outside, I'd have to reshingle here anyway, so that's the approach I took.
Oh, that's a good idea. You save a lot of work by doing it this way.
Yeah, plaster work, which I don't really want to have to do myself because I tend to drop the stuff all over the place.
The framing looks good. Let me take a look up here to see what you have. You have, what size are these timbers in this header?
Those are 2x8s. You can't see all of them because they go in above the overhang.
Okay, and you got spacers to make it the same thickness of the wall, and you nailed it from both sides about every 8 inches like this?
With 16-penny spikes.
That's good. And you have this jack stud supporting the weight of the header.
Yeah.
Which actually carries
that
your roof, and it goes all the way down.
Straight down to my sill.
To the sill. And then you've got...
Well, this would be called a jack stud also, wouldn't it?
It's a jack stud or a cripple.
Or a cripple.
Underneath the window. The stool 2x4s, it's good that you put 2 here because in a window this long, it stiffens it up so it won't
wobble back and forth, in and out.
And then you've got your insulation all done, and that looks good and tight. 3.5-inch insulation with the vapor barrier facing the inside.
As it should be.
And looks like it's pretty well ready to go.
Well, I saved all the sheathing that I tore off of here to fill this back in. And since that truck isn't here, why don't we start banging some of it in place? I think that has to go in place before we can put the window in,
That's right. We have to finish sheathing.
Okay.
This board's labeled. You got kind of big nails. Bob, raise it up.
That had a spike in it. Let me get some smaller nails.
I think you ought to raise it up a little bit too, about
Okay.
3/4. You can see where the old joint was there.
Where?
See where the old joint is, just
Right. Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, that's about it for the sheathing.
Except for one more thing, Bob.
Yeah?
You gotta put a couple strips of tar paper on each side of this window.
All right.
Here's one piece for your side, and there's a stapler. You need that to, so that the water will be shed away from the window, and when we repair those shingles, we'll have some kind of a
Moisture
barrier
barrier,
behind
yeah.
there. Okay.
Okay,
That's
you want to
good.
get yours up?
Yeah. Let's hope it fits in here. Yeah.
Are we ready to try it?
Now we're ready.
Okay. Now, with a little bit of luck, she'll fit.
That's right. You can just get the casings resting up against the opening. You can slide it right up. I hope. Yeah, top's got to come out a little bit, Bob. All right.
Here she goes.
You in?
Yep.
Okay. Can you just reach inside and see if we're approximately in the center of the opening?
Now, I've got about 1.5 inches on my
Oh, I've only got about 1/4 inch.
All right, let's move my way.
About 3/4. 3/4 inch or so.
I've got about 3/4.
All right, why don't you just hold the window in right there, and I'm going to check this sill. See how level it is. Okay, your end is a little bit low, so I'm going to tack my corner.
All right. Well, why don't I just tack this one in, because believe it or not, I think I hear that concrete truck coming.
Okay.
Okay, that'll hold it in place, Norm. Let's go take care of our mud.
Okay.
Okay, we're putting another chute on the end of this.
Okay.
Well, Norm, I guess the trick here is we got to get this stuff out of the truck as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we got to get some of this down here and then pull this mesh up about halfway in it, and then we can just keep pouring it in.
Yeah.
The sooner we get rid of the truck, the better, because
Yeah.
it pays.
$50 a yard, and then they charge you overtime if they have to
Yeah,
stay
anything
here extra
over a
time.
half
You want to
an
let her
hour.
go? I'm afraid we've only got one rake on this operation, so maybe you can handle lifting up the mesh,
Okay.
and I'll spread it out
If there's any excess, you can throw it in these holes.
in the holes, right? All right, I'm coming.
Coming good.
Norm, how come it's so important to get all this concrete in the hollows of the block?
Well, it's really not that critical except for the anchor bolts, but where the anchor bolts are going to go. But while you got the concrete...
You might as well.
Right, you end up with almost just like having a poured foundation. It becomes one solid concrete wall.
All right.
And they're not that bad to fill.
Hey, Norm, whatever about too much of this stuff?
That's your problem. Once you buy it, you own it.
Maybe the cellar window. Hey, Norm, you think we got enough mud in here now?
Yeah, I think you're all set, Bob.
All right, Murph, that's all we want here. Listen, how about if you let me have just one load in the wheelbarrow over there in case I run short for filling in the blocks? Well, Norm, what's next? Are we going to have to get ready to screed it?
Yeah, we got a straight 2x6 here that'll go all the way across, and all we have to do is keep working it back and forth, get the concrete down to the right level, and we might have to go over it
several times.
Yeah. Well, we're getting real close because every time we go over it, just a little bit less gets pushed forward on the stick. This surface will be good enough to set your quarry towel right on. I don't think it's necessary to make it much smoother. As a matter of fact, if it's a little bit rough, it'll adhere better.
Well, that's great news. We just cut out one more piece of work that we'd have to do otherwise, right?
That's right. It's not a finished floor.
We don't need a smooth finish. There.
Oh, it's looking good.
Well, what else do we have to do?
One more step is to put the anchor bolts in.
Let me come around and talk with you.
Okay, I'll show you how that's done. Basically, you have to do it while the cement's soft like this, and you...
Do you absolutely have to have the anchor bolts?
Yeah, you really have to have it. It's required, and it helps to hold the walls not only from moving in and out, but from
blowing off in a gale,
right.
Yeah?
So we want to push these down about 1 3/4 to 2 inches in from this outside wall, and maybe let them stick up about 2 to 3 inches so that we can
so they'll end up right in the middle of a 2x4 that comes across there.
Now, if you run short a little bit, you can pick up some of the cement on the edges from your wheelbarrow. I like to keep this a little bit low here, Bob, around these anchor bolts so that it doesn't stick up and interfere with our plate here, or our sill, so that it's nice and tight to the blocks.
All right, so they're close to the top of the 2x4. Hey, I was just thinking, what if it gets really cold tonight and this concrete freezes?
I don't think you have too much to worry about tonight. It's not supposed to get that cold.
Yeah.
But if you put polyethylene over it, the concrete will generate a certain amount of heat when it cures, and that polyethylene will hold it in there. And I don't think you have too much to worry about with this.
Okay, well, I'll stay here and get busy with you putting the bolts in, and we'll get the plastic on. In the meantime, we'll let our viewers look at an energy audit that we did earlier today.
Okay.
With us now is Bob Timber, who is with a local organization called Mass Save. This is an energy audit nonprofit group, and they have their counterpart all over the country. For a $10 flat charge, they've come into this old house, and they're doing a complete energy audit. Hi, Bob. What have you found so far down here?
Hey, Bob. Well, take a look at this carbon dioxide reading that I just took from your flue. You've got about an 8% there.
What does that mean to me, the layman?
That means that you're average. You're not getting a totally complete burn of your oil. It could be worse. Looking at this system, I expected it to be worse. The age of it, the condition of it.
Yeah.
But it could be a lot better. I would rather see it up around 10 or 12%. That would give you a higher efficiency.
Okay. What else? What other tests have you run on?
Well, I've just put the thermometer in here, as you can see, and it's already gone up above 600 degrees, and it is still climbing.
You're measuring the temperature in the flue.
Exactly. I'm measuring how much of your heat is going out the chimney and not into your system.
And we seem to have a problem there?
Yeah, this is way too high. I'd like to have that under 500, maybe down to around 400. And that means you'd be keeping much more of your heat where you want it, into the system so it goes into the house. This way you've got too much going right out your
Why
stack.
do you suppose I'm wasting so much heat up the chimney?
Well, it could be the age and condition of the boiler. That certainly is one thing. You can see that it's not in good shape. However, it hasn't been cleaned in over 1.5 years, and these should be cleaned at least once a year.
So you're not going to recommend right away that I toss this old friend out?
Never, never. It's got to be cleaned and serviced first. There's a lot of soot that's built up in there, and the nozzle could be clogged. There are normal things that need to be changed that can significantly affect the efficiency, and you're at about 70 or under 70% right now.
Not so good.
I'd rather see it, you want to be up around 80%.
Okay. So one of the main problems I've got is probably a lot of soot.
That's right, that's right. And we are going to take these figures that I've gotten, we're going to put them through the computer for you right here in the house, and we'll get a cost analysis done for you, find out how much it would cost to replace the unit, how much you would save if you did it, how many years it would take to pay for itself.
What the payback would be.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that'll be very valuable. What other problems have you found around the old house?
Let me show you the attic. You've really got some things happening up there.
Okay.
Now, you might not think that you've got any serious problems up here, Bob, but I think we ought to take a look at it.
Well, I thought we had an insulated attic.
Well, you do have some insulation in the attic, and as you can see right here, this is rock wool. It's very old. It's in very poor condition, and because it's so broken up and so mashed down, it is largely ineffective.
Once the insulation has gotten flattened out like that, it just doesn't do the job as well, huh?
That's right. As we've been saying, insulation comes from dead air space.
Yeah. So what are you going to recommend that we do up here?
I would like to see this old insulation ripped out, take it out completely, and you want an insulating value of 30 in this area. That's about 10 inches of insulation that you want up here in this attic.
What kind? Should it be the foil back?
Exactly. You want that foil backing, and you want the foil facing down towards the heated area.
Towards the heated part.
Right.
I guess what you're telling me then is the first thing we have to do is clean out that existing furnace and measure it again. And the second most important thing to do is to re-insulate this attic.
Those are certainly two of the larger ones, and as we'll see when we get the computer printout, it will all be prioritized according to what's most cost-effective.
Okay.
And those are going to be two big ones.
Well, I'll be anxious to get that report so that we can study it carefully.
Okay.
Thanks for coming out and being with us. We are running out of time for today. Until next week, I'm Bob Vila for This Old House.
This Old House is made possible by a grant from Owens Corning Fiberglass Corporation, manufacturers of residential building products.